Well, for me, the essence of permaculture is design. And it really struck me being in an agriculture faculty in a major university and realizing that, in fact, in all agricultural programs, there was no teaching about design. The design was taken as given, which was monoculture or very, very simple rotations based on inputs and extraction and no attention to maintenance of the system. When I first saw about permaculture, and not just permaculture, but also the New Alchemy Institute had also put out a book and report about what was needed in agriculture. And it was the same concept of design. So the question about design is what do you include in the design, and where do you put it, and when do you put it, and how do you manage it? And that requires a considerable amount of knowledge that when you're just practicing monoculture, you don't actually need that sort of same level of knowledge. And it encompasses an understanding of ecological processes and the functions that the different organisms carry out, what their needs are, what their interrelationships are, and how that varies over time and space. So there's not an assumption that you can do anything, anywhere, anytime. It's an understanding that there are things you can do optimally in certain places and at certain times. And it takes a certain amount of experience and knowledge to know when and where those things are. So that's particularly what impressed me about permaculture and also the few other organizations that have actually focused on design.
What are the other organizations or movements that are focused on design?
Permaculture highlights it as the central issue. And in the other organizations, biological agriculture, ecological agriculture, organic farming, biodynamic farming, regenerative farming, and convergence farming. You know, there are a whole range of these now that to some extent acknowledge the importance of design, but not with the same understanding and central focus that permaculture does, elaborated by David Holmgren in his principles, the long list of principles of design. And I would only add to his list in terms of the psychological. So my take is that our internal permaculture is a foundation for external permaculture. And that has been neglected, I think, in conventional permaculture until fairly recently, when a few people have been acknowledging this. You know, the whole concept of polyculture systems and succession and how this was long understood by indigenous cultures, particularly in the tropics. For example, when I worked in Trinidad, coffee and cocoa was grown under flame trees, which provided shade for them, and they got more optimal production when they had a certain amount of shade. And North American Indians planted squash and beans and corn together. And so the beans captured nitrogen for the corn, and the squash grew up the corn as a support. So there are lots and lots of those sort of examples. And also in terms of rotations, moving crops so you don't follow the same crop year after year in the same soil. And there are certain things that you can't follow because something leaves a toxin in the soil that affects the subsequent crop. So all that sort of knowledge is quite essential.
Thank you.